My beloved child, listen carefully. You have been wondering why certain people have been drifting away from you. Why conversations feel different. Why the connection you once had no longer feels the same. You notice the distance before you ever had the words to describe it. Late at night, when your mind is quiet, the question rises again, why is this happening to me? And right now, in this very moment, you are being reminded that this is not random. This is not punishment. This is not rejection. This is God separating you from them for a reason that is far bigger than what your eyes can see. You may not like it right now. You may even be resisting it. You might be asking God to restore what once was, to bring back what feels familiar, to return what once felt safe. But God is not in the business of preserving what limits your future. God does not hold on to what blocks your growth. And sometimes, the most painful goodbyes are actually the loudest answers to your prayers. There were people in your life who were only assigned to one season, even though you wanted them for a lifetime. There were connections that were meant to teach you, strengthen you, reveal something inside you, but not remain forever. You stayed longer than your spirit was designed to stay. You kept giving to people who could not meet you at the level God was elevating you to. And while you were trying to carry everyone with you, God was trying to free you. You thought their absence meant loss. God says it means alignment. You thought the separation meant abandonment. God says it means protection. You thought it meant the end. God says it means the beginning. There are things God is preparing to release into your life that those people could never handle. There are blessings coming that require a lighter load. There are doors opening that demand new levels of strength, new levels of clarity, new levels of faith. And the truth that may be shocking to hear is this: some people had to be moved out of the way because they would have stopped you from walking through what God has already prepared. Not everyone who smiles with you celebrates you. Not everyone who sits close to you is meant to go far with you. Some people were only comfortable with the version of you that had not yet awakened. They liked the version of you that doubted. They liked the version of you that depended. They liked the version of you that stayed small so they could feel big. But now you are changing. Now you are rising. Now your spirit is refusing to stay quiet. And the shift inside you is exposing everything and everyone that does not belong in your next chapter. You didn't suddenly become difficult. You became different. Your standards rose. Your tolerance dropped. Your discernment sharpened. Your spirit got stronger. And what once fit no longer fits. What once felt natural now feels forced. What once felt right now feels draining. That is not you becoming cold. That is you becoming aligned. God is separating you because what is coming requires you to hear His voice without noise. There were too many opinions around you. Too many voices pulling at your attention. Too many emotional distractions cutting into your peace. And before God brings clarity, He brings quiet. Before God releases direction, He removes distraction. You asked God for peace, not realizing He would have to remove chaos disguised as companionship. You asked God for growth, not realizing He would have to separate you from comfort. You asked God for purpose, not realizing He would have to strip away what kept you familiar and stuck. There were people who benefited from the old version of you. They fed off your overgiving, your silence, your self-doubt, your constant availability. And when God began to heal you, the dynamic changed. When God began to strengthen you, the balance shifted. When God began to restore your worth, your presence could no longer be used. And that is when resistance appeared. That is when tension entered the room. That is when distance started growing. Not because you did something wrong, but because you did something right. What you are experiencing now is not loneliness. It is consecration. It is God creating space so He can speak clearly into your life without interference. It is God removing familiar voices so you can finally recognize His. You are not being left behind. You are being set apart. There are things about yourself you would have never discovered if those people had stayed. There is a strength in you that only separation could awaken. There is a level of faith in you that only isolation could activate. There is a confidence growing in you that only comes when you realize you no longer need certain approval to feel whole. You are learning how to stand without leaning. You are learning how to choose yourself without guilt. You are learning how to trust God without needing constant reassurance from people. This is not easy. It was never meant to be easy. But it is sacred. And here is the shocking part that your heart is still catching up to. Some of the people God removed were praying against the very future you are stepping into, even if they never said it out loud. Their fears would have infected your courage. Their doubts would have weakened your faith. Their comfort with your old identity would have tried to keep you from stepping into your new one. God saw things you did not see. God heard things you did not hear. God knew what was happening behind your back, within conversations you were not part of, within intentions that were hidden beneath smiles. So He stepped in before it broke you. He intervened before it delayed you. He separated you before it destroyed you. You thought He was taking something from you. In reality, He was preserving your destiny. Right now, your heart may still be heavy. You may still be replaying memories. You may still be wishing things could go back to how they once were. But you are not the same person you were back then. And deep down, you know it. You would not fit in those spaces anymore. You would have to shrink. You would have to silence your growth. You would have to pretend you are still who you used to be just to keep them comfortable. And God did not build you to live a life of pretending. He built you to live a life of becoming. You are being separated because you are being prepared. Prepared for new connections that align with your future, not your past. Prepared for relationships that honor your healing, not exploit your wounds. Prepared for environments that multiply your peace, not drain it. Prepared for love that does not demand you to beg for consistency. Prepared for purpose that does not require permission. What feels like loss right now will soon reveal itself as protection in motion. What feels like silence right now will soon reveal itself as God rearranging everything behind the scenes. What feels like isolation right now will soon reveal itself as divine positioning. And one day soon, you will look back at this exact season and realize the people you begged God to keep were the very ones who would have blocked your breakthrough. You will thank God for what He removed even though it once made you cry. You will see how every closed door, every faded connection, Every quiet goodbye was actually God escorting you into the life you prayed for. Not everything that leaves you is meant to be mourned. Some things are meant to be released with gratitude. Some are meant to be forgiven silently. Some are meant to be left behind without explanation. You do not need closure from everyone. You only need clarity from God. And clarity is already forming inside you. You feel the shift. You feel the strengthening. You feel the quiet confidence replacing the old fear. You feel the weight lifting. You feel the hunger for something more. That is not confusion. That is calling. That is God reminding you that you were never meant to stay where you outgrew. The separation is not to punish you. It is to prepare you. The distance is not to break you. It is to rebuild you. The silence is not to abandon you. It is to align you. And even if it hurts right now, even if it still feels heavy, even if your heart still aches when certain names cross your mind, trust this: God never removes without replacing. God never subtracts without multiplying. God never closes without opening something greater. This season is not empty. It is incubating destiny. And what is being formed inside you right now will soon require a life that those old connections could never survive inside of. You are beginning to realize that not everyone who walks away is an enemy, and not everyone who stays was a blessing. Some people are released simply because their assignment in your life is complete. You were meant to outgrow them. You were meant to move beyond the level where you once met. And sometimes the most loving thing God does is allow the distance to happen without forcing you to explain it to anyone. You do not owe everyone access to your next season. You do not have to drag your future behind you just to keep your past comfortable. There are moments when God separates without warning. One day the messages slow down. The calls stop coming. The laughter fades. The connection thins. And you search for a reason. You replay conversations. You check your words. You wonder what you did wrong. But often, it is not something you did. It is something God is doing. You are asking for elevation while still expecting to carry relationships built at a lower level of awareness. But elevation always changes your environment. It changes what you can tolerate. It changes what drains you. It changes what excites you. It changes what you need to survive. And when you rise, not everyone has the oxygen to breathe at the height God is taking you to. Some people only loved you when you were accessible at all times. Some only felt secure when they could predict your reactions. Some only stayed when your light was dim enough for them not to feel exposed. But now your light is getting brighter. Your voice is getting firmer. Your discernment is deeper. And what once felt natural now feels heavy. You have been mistaking discomfort for disloyalty when in reality it is disconnection by divine design. God is not separating you to isolate you forever. He is separating you to reintroduce you to your true self. When the noise dies down, you start hearing your own thoughts again. When the crowd thins, you start feeling your own heartbeat again. When the attachments loosen, you remember who you were before you were shaped by everyone else's expectations. You are rediscovering what you actually want. You are learning what you truly need. You are understanding what you will no longer accept. This is not emptiness. This is recalibration. And yes, there will be nights when the silence feels loud. There will be mornings when you reach for your phone and realize certain names are no longer there. There will be moments when your chest tightens without warning. That is grief. Even when God does the separation, your human heart still feels the loss. And God is not offended by your tears. He collects them. He understands them. But He does not want your sorrow to convince you that separation means failure. Sometimes separation is success in disguise. You are no longer being emotionally drained by one-sided effort. You are no longer bending yourself to fit in places that never truly held you. You are no longer shrinking to avoid making others uncomfortable with your growth. You are no longer asking for permission to become who God called you to be. And somewhere in the quiet, strength is being built inside you that you did not even know you had. You are learning how to sit with yourself without abandoning yourself. You are learning how to be alone without feeling unloved. You are learning how to trust God without needing constant reassurance from people. You are learning how to move without clinging. You are learning how to love without losing yourself. These lessons are not small. They are life-altering. They are the foundation for everything God is about to release. Because what God is preparing to send into your life requires a healed version of you, not a desperate one. It requires a grounded version of you, not a grasping one. It requires a confident version of you, not a fearful one. And fear used to keep you attached to what was familiar, even when it was painful. Fear used to convince you that losing certain people meant losing everything. But now God is reprogramming your faith. He is teaching you that loss and lack are not the same thing. You lost access. You did not lose value. You lost connection. You did not lose worth. You lost companionship. You did not lose purpose. In fact, you are closer to your purpose now than you have ever been before, because the distractions have fallen away. There were doors that would have never opened if those people had stayed. You would have been too busy managing expectations. Too busy explaining yourself. Too busy shrinking your dreams to avoid tension. Too busy feeding relationships that could never feed your spirit. Now your energy is returning to you. Your focus is sharpening. Your prayer life is deepening. Your intuition is strengthening. Your vision is clearing. Do not rush to fill the space God just created. Do not invite substitutes into a sanctuary that is still being prepared. Do not settle for temporary noise just to escape holy silence. This quiet season is delicate. It is sacred. It is where your next identity is being shaped. You are being rebuilt from the inside out. The old you depended on approval. The new you moves with conviction. The old you begged for understanding. The new you chooses peace. The old you chased attachments. The new you attracts alignment. And attraction happens when you are no longer chasing what God is trying to bring. There will come a moment, unexpectedly, when you realize the ache is not as sharp as it used to be. The memories do not sting as deeply. The names do not trigger the same heaviness. You will catch yourself smiling without forcing it, breathing without effort, living without the invisible pressure that once followed you everywhere. That is healing. That is God restoring you in ways you never saw coming. And then, without warning, something new will enter your life. A connection. An opportunity. A door. A conversation. A moment. And it will feel different. It will feel calm. It will feel solid. It will feel mutual. It will feel safe. And that is how you will know the difference between attachment and alignment. Attachment makes you anxious. Alignment makes you steady. Attachment makes you afraid to lose. Alignment makes you unafraid to receive. Attachment keeps you stuck in cycles. Alignment moves you into expansion. This is what God has been protecting you for. You were never meant to beg for space in rooms that were too small for your destiny. You were meant to walk into rooms that had been waiting for your arrival. You were never meant to pour endlessly into people who could never pour back. You were meant to know what divine mutuality feels like. You were never meant to constantly question your worth. You were meant to walk with the quiet knowing that you are chosen. Somewhere behind the scenes, while you have been grieving what you lost, God has been arranging what you will gain. While you have been healing from what ended, God has been preparing what has not yet started. While you have been learning how to let go, God has been building something that will not require you to. This is not the gap before the fall. This is the pause before the rise. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are not delayed. You are being positioned. And soon, very soon, what separated you will no longer look like abandonment. It will look like the greatest act of love God ever performed for your life. There will come a moment when your heart finally understands what your pain could not explain at the beginning. You will see clearly why the separation had to happen exactly the way it did. Why it couldn't be delayed. Why it couldn't be softened. Why it couldn't be negotiated. Some exits must be abrupt, because slow separation leaves room for return. And God knew that if you kept going back, you would never fully step forward. You were too loyal to what was familiar. You were too hopeful about what had already expired. You were too willing to wait for people who were never planning to meet you at your new level. So God moved for you. He closed doors you kept reopening. He ended conversations you kept prolonging. He created distance where you kept trying to bridge gaps. Not to punish you, but to protect the future version of you that you could not yet fully see. And now, as time passes, you are beginning to notice something subtle but powerful happening inside you. You react differently. You think differently. You no longer chase what runs from you. You no longer beg for consistency. You no longer twist yourself into shapes that were never meant to hold you. You are becoming quieter, but stronger. Softer, but unbreakable. Gentler, but unmovable in your standards. You are not who you used to be. And that is the miracle. What once shattered you now only slows you down for a moment. What once consumed your thoughts now barely lingers. What once made you feel abandoned now feels like redirection. The pain did not destroy you. It refined you. The loss did not empty you. It revealed you. The separation did not weaken you. It aligned you. And the version of you that is emerging now would never survive in the spaces God removed you from. You require more truth now. More respect. More depth. More peace. More sincerity. Your soul will no longer tolerate shallow connections wrapped in familiar faces. You have tasted what it feels like to choose yourself without guilt. You have felt the relief of not explaining your growth. You have discovered the strength of standing alone without feeling lonely. You have learned that peace is not boring, and silence is not emptiness. You are no longer afraid of being misunderstood by people who never took the time to truly know you. You are no longer shrinking your vision so others can feel comfortable. You are no longer apologizing for the divine restlessness inside you that keeps pushing you forward. And this is why what is coming next will feel so different. It will not drain you. It will not confuse you. It will not require you to abandon yourself to be accepted. It will not ask you to prove your worth through suffering. It will meet you where you are, not where you used to be. God is not rebuilding you to send you back to old environments. He is preparing you for new rooms where you will not have to beg for visibility. For new relationships where love is not a battlefield. For new opportunities where effort is met with expansion. For new assignments where your gifts will finally be recognized without resistance. The version of you that survives what you just walked through is not meant for small outcomes. It is meant for impact. For leadership. For purpose. For legacy. And yes, sometimes you still miss what was. Sometimes you still feel the ache without knowing why. Sometimes memory still taps on your heart when you least expect it. But now it no longer owns you. It no longer controls your movement. It no longer dictates your future. You can honor what was without returning to it. You can love what shaped you without living there again. You can forgive without reopening doors. You can remember without reaching back. That is maturity. That is healing. That is freedom. God is not finished with you. What you thought was the ending was actually the clearing. What you thought was rejection was actually redirection. What you thought was devastation was actually divine preparation. What you thought broke your heart was the very thing that saved your destiny. And one day, sooner than you think, you will look at your life and realize the separation was not the tragedy you once believed it was. It was the turning point. The moment everything changed. The quiet miracle that reshaped your direction. The unseen hand that moved what you were too emotionally attached to release. You will meet people who speak your language without translation. You will walk into rooms where you do not have to prove your value. You will form connections that feel like rest, not work. You will step into opportunities that do not exhaust your soul. You will experience love that does not punish your vulnerability. You will live a life that feels steady, not chaotic. And in that moment, you will finally understand why God had to separate you from them. Not because you were unworthy of staying, but because you were worthy of more. So let yourself release without guilt. Let yourself rise without apology. Let yourself trust without fear. Let yourself move forward without looking back. The separation is complete. The preparation is active. The next chapter is opening. And the version of you walking into it is stronger than the one that had to be broken to get here. You are not losing anything that belongs to your destiny. You are only shedding what could not follow you into your future. And this time, you will not settle. You will not return. You will not shrink. You will rise.